Hello and welcome to Vietnam 360, your one-stop destination for insights on Vietnam's development, policy and strategy. Nearly 4 decades after the Đổi mới reforms unleashed Vietnam's market economy, household businesses have grown into one of the country's most dynamic and resilient economic forces. Once small family-run operations, they now contribute to some 30% of Vietnam's GDP and create millions of jobs, making them a true giant in number, but quiet in presence. As Vietnam pushes forward with new reforms under Resolution 68, the question of how to sustain and elevate this essential economic engine has become more important than ever. And today we take a closer look at the significance and future of these quiet giants, and more importantly, how Vietnam can encourage them to speak up. And we have here with us Marc Kramer, an expert on entrepreneurship, a writer, a podcast creator, and a senior lecturer at Vinh University. Welcome to Vietnam 360, Marc.
Lena, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Household businesses make up a large share of all economic units in Vietnam. As of early 2025, the country had around 5.2 million household businesses, including more than 1.9 million officially registered. In the first 9 months of 2025, tax revenues from household businesses were estimated at nearly $1 billion, a 30% increase compared to the same period last year, according to the Ministry of Finance. 536,200 new household businesses were established in the first 7 months of 2025 alone, an increase of almost 165% year-on-year. This rapid growth shows how household businesses continue to create millions of jobs in rural areas and smaller cities, playing a key role in poverty reduction and income improvement.
Our topic today is very interesting, and I believe you have studied the topic of household business for many years. Can you say something about your expertise?
So I've been working with family businesses for 40 years all around the world, primarily in the United States and Latin America.
Now let me give you some statistics of the Vietnamese household businesses in Vietnam. So according to the General Statistics Office, households and individual economy contributes nearly 30% of Vietnam's annual GDP. What do you say about this percentage?
I bet you that percentage is even higher than that. I think that they are the foundation for the country, and it's always been that way, in particular in Asia, that family businesses have been not just the foundation, but the ones that push forward the whole country in terms of economic success.
Family business also generate roughly 10 million jobs.
Yes.
And accounting for about 20% of the national labor force. So do you think it's a huge piece?
Not only a huge piece, but a growing piece, because especially as more and more young people want to be entrepreneurs, and they're involving family members in family businesses as well. So they're getting involved with their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins. And I think that more young people want control of their financial future. It's kind of different than starting, let's just say, a family restaurant. I think a lot of the young people want to start businesses that can grow both nationally and internationally. And they have a huge trust factor by working with family. So I think these numbers are going to grow in Vietnam, and Vietnam is going to be economically very strong because of the good family values that you have in this country.
Why do family business take such a large portion in Vietnam's economic structure?
Well, I mean, I think that's typical in Asia, where trust is so important, and that people feel more comfortable working with blood relatives. Even if they fight with those blood relatives, at the end of the day, they're still family. So people do that. I think it's different than in America, where we're not as close to our family, that our family lives in all parts of the United States. And so in many cases, you're closer to your friends than you are to your family. And so you end up meeting friends in college or high school, and you start businesses together. So here, You still go and have dinner every weekend with your family. You know yourself. You know you have your mom at home. I think that it lends itself for the family dynamic to create these businesses. I have a lot of my students at Bin University that because they've seen their moms and dads start businesses, it encourages them to start part-time or full-time businesses. I mean, one of my students sells sneakers online, and he's making significant money selling sneakers, like more than he'll make when he actually graduates. And I think because he sees entrepreneurship in his family, that encourages him. So I think that it encourages more creative thinking on young people's part. I think that they see more opportunity. I think they also see that there's a chance for them to be long-term supporters of their family. And here in Asia, you still think about your parents and how you're going to support them and your grandparents. So I think all these enterprises add to the financial foundation that allows Vietnam to be, as projected, the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia over the next 5 years.
The Politburo's Resolution 68, issued in May, introduces a key policy for household businesses. From 2026, lump sum tax will be abolished to promote transparency in household business activities, and such businesses will shift to a declaration-based taxation system. Ahead of the shift, household businesses are concerned with their unfamiliarity with taxing and accounting software.
Nếu như xuất hóa đơn mà sai chẳng hạn, chỉ một chút sai thì tất cả ai cũng sợ. Là sợ nếu như mà đã xuất rồi thì không thể thu hồi lại được, hoặc không thể chỉnh sửa được, thì liệu có bị phạt không?
To tackle such challenges, since November, tax offices nationwide have been running a 60-day campaign to help household businesses adopt changes to the declaration system, ensuring a smooth transition.
Sau đó để người hộ kinh doanh có thể lựa chọn cái gói nào là phù hợp với lại cái năng lực, quy mô và cái ngành hàng hoạt động của mình. Cơ quan thuế chúng tôi cũng sẽ có những cái nghiên cứu trong cái hệ thống kê khai, trong cái hệ thống mà ứng dụng công nghệ thông tin để có những cái sự hỗ trợ.
During the 60-day campaign, tax authorities at all levels must ensure that 100% of household businesses can use electronic tax services with ease, respond to all taxpayer inquiries within 24 hours, and maintain 24/7 customer support. The removal of lump sum tax also motivates household businesses to transition into formal enterprises. Once converted, they will benefit from preferential access to credit, land, training, technology, and tax incentives.
So, as you know, as of 2025, Vietnam recorded around 5.2 million household businesses, including more than 1.9 million officially registered. Household business in Vietnam usually are in the informal sector, meaning that we don't count them in the formal sector when we calculate GDP. So, do you think that this giant is rather quiet?
It's quiet because it's hard to track, especially some of these are just small part-time businesses. The people might be working for a large company and start a side business. You know, they might be doing bookkeeping on the side and they handle so many clients, or they're making baked goods. Like I know a lot of people who make baked goods and then sell them at events or sell them to like coffee shops and so forth. They are a sleeping giant that has not been fully counted into the economy. I know that there are academics who are working on trying to figure what that real number looks like. But I think with the government's proposals of wiring them into the government system digitally, I think that's going to give Vietnam a better handle on it, but also allow the government to provide more support to encourage more of this.
Why these household businesses usually are in the informal sector?
Well, I think because it's low cost to start. And now the government's getting rid of the lump sum payment that they have to do, because that was the only way the government could get some money, I think is going to be actually for the long term better. It's almost like the government will be making an investment by not taxing you, but they need you to be transparent and honest so they know that you're not making up these numbers, that you're still saying, oh my God, I'm still at 100 million when you're over 2 billion. So I think that's the biggest concern of the government, is transparency and honesty.
Now I want to quote what our party General Secretary To Lâm said. He recently commented that aside from private enterprises, more than 5 million household businesses form a massive force. Yet many do not want to grow due to concerns about regulations and administrative procedures. So what do you think of these concerns?
It's legitimate all over the world. It's not just Vietnam. The problem is that it's not that these family businesses do not want to comply with this, it's the cost of complying. That's the problem, because it becomes so expensive because you have to hire accountants and attorneys, and you have bookkeepers and tax specialists. And so now you're like, God, there's no money left for me because the regulations force me to do this. This happened in banking in the United States. The community banks had to pay the same amount of advisors that large international banks did. So it was crippling them. He recognizes that, and they're wanting to fix that. They don't want to make it onerous on them. They want to use technology in a way that will make it easier for them to do it, but they don't want them also to have these administrative burdens. So I think he and the rest of the party have a good handle on this and are trying to constantly improve it, at the same time knowing that if we don't have money, we really can't build this successful economy.
That's why Resolution 68 was created. And then a very important part in Resolution 68 is to focus on household business. And it set the target that in 2030, the country should have 2 million enterprises. And right now we have 1 million. So in the next 5 years, we must grow another 1 million. So what do you think of this target?
I think it's doable. And the reason I think it's doable is not only is Vinh University encouraging entrepreneurship, we have an entrepreneurship major. Every single student has to take my Agile Innovation course and learn about entrepreneurship. And all the other major universities in Vietnam are also encouraging entrepreneurship. You think about it, 5 years from now, how many more businesses are going to crop up? So I think that number is really reachable.
How about this approach? We convert those super small enterprises, the informal sector, upgrade them into enterprises.
Well, I mean, they would love to be enterprises, right? The problem is how much income can they bring in? And also, not everybody has the skill set to scale a business. There's only a small sector of the businesses and leadership that knows how to scale these kinds of businesses. So I think that's really the bigger issue for them.
So you're saying to upgrade them into enterprise, we need know-how, right?
They need know-how, capital, and opportunity to scale. But let's face it, you know, the small Vietnamese restaurants more than likely are not going to be able to scale. Right. And that's a big chunk of the sector, right? And people baking goods is another big part of it. So a lot of these businesses could scale if they had something unique to sell, but very hard for them to scale.
But the law also need to change in order to facilitate the scaling up. So do you think Resolution 68 kind of paved the way in the legal framework to encourage household businesses to upgrade into enterprises?
So I think that the government really wants to be able to count these enterprises, have more transparency, but also open up the capital markets outside that would come in and invest in Vietnam. And I think this will help the transparency. So they'll be able to go and get more foreign capital that will come in. And I think there's a lot of people from outside of Vietnam that see Vietnam as a great opportunity and understand family businesses and want to work with those family businesses. In order for these companies these enterprises to grow, it's going to be critical that non-family members also occupy important positions, that if you have an aunt who's always been running marketing and she's reached her level of skill, that you have to be willing to tell your aunt, in order for us to get to the next level, we don't have anyone in the family, including you, that can do it. We need to bring in outsiders to go and do this. So I think this designation is just one part of it. I think that you see plans by the government to actually encourage more educational opportunity to teach these businesses how to scale is critical.
What about the dilemma of household businesses who don't want to grow.
Right? They're risk adverse about taking on more debt or whatever. You can encourage them by educating about that growth doesn't mean that the risk will kill you, that if you are planned out and that you are educated in how to grow the business, and there can be a significant reduction in risk. So I think they're afraid of things they don't know, and I think they're afraid of taking on more debt because they've also saw people who took on debt and got wiped out. But I think the government can also, just like the US did in 2008, when we had the crash, the government stepped in and made people not be afraid to go back in and taking risk again. So again, I think the party leaders are smart here, and I think they've surrounded themselves with knowledgeable people and have gotten outsiders to advise them. So I think this is all good for Vietnam.
So you think it's definitely better to grow and become enterprises rather than stay small?
I think it's better to grow because if you're not growing, you die. So if you take a look at some of the major brand names that no longer exist, like Sears, like Kodak and others, they died because they weren't innovating and they weren't growing. If you're not constantly innovating and growing, then eventually you're not going to be around. If they want their family businesses to survive and their families to thrive, the thought has to be on how do we keep increasing sales, come up with new products, and grow the family enterprise. I mean, from that small business to an actual enterprise.
Becoming a real business is much better than staying the same or remain small.
Yeah, the government's doing this because they realize in order to be like Singapore, which is super transparent, or Taiwan, very transparent, or even the United States, that they have to do this. It's the next evolution in the economy here. If we're going to meet the goal of being the fastest growing economy, if we're going to have great job opportunities for our kids here, that we have to do this. It's not like we have to think about it, we must do it.
With just under a month to completely abolish the lump sum tax, a new draft law on tax was tabled at the 10th working session of the 15th National Assembly. The much-debated topic was the tax exemption for household businesses earning under 200 million Vietnam dong, or $7,600.
Có 200 triệu mà thực tế thì tôi nói tôi tính ra một hộ mà mua gánh bán bưng họ bán họ thu nhập trừ ra thì họ lợi nhuận cao lắm chừng 7-8 triệu thôi, tôi cho là lợi nhuận 50% đó. 7-8 triệu mà cả gia đình 3 người, 3 miệng ăn mà 7-8 triệu trong một tháng làm sao có thu nhập, làm sao mà sống.
Với giá trị gia tăng bình quân của nền kinh tế nước ta tăng trưởng trong năm nay ở mức đã rất cao là 8%, thì cũng chỉ tương ứng 200 triệu này chỉ tương ứng với 16 triệu thu nhập một năm của hộ kinh doanh. Tức là 1,33 triệu đồng một tháng đã phải nộp thuế thu nhập cá nhân rồi, so với 11 triệu tháng của đối tượng khác. Và đây là sự bất bình đẳng mà người kinh doanh nhỏ phải chịu.
Meanwhile, the Korean taxable income threshold for salary workers is 15.5 million Vietnam dong, or nearly $600 per month. The Minister of Finance agreed that there is still a lack of fairness in how household businesses are taxed compared with wage earners.
Hôm nay qua ý kiến của các đại biểu thì chúng tôi nghĩ rằng vẫn phải tính toán lại để đảm bảo thực sự là không để các hộ kinh doanh cảm thấy là tôi bị thiệt thòi hơn so với cái mức thuế mà bắt đầu thu thuế của của người làm công ăn lương. Thì chúng tôi cũng sẽ xin được tiếp thu cái nội dung này để nghiên cứu làm thế nào để chúng ta có được một cái mức tính thuế nó khởi đầu tính thuế đối với hộ kinh doanh nó phù hợp.
On November 29th, in response to feedback from National Assembly deputies, the Ministry of Finance proposed in a draft tax law a new taxable revenue threshold for household businesses, 500 million Vietnam dong, or about $19,000 per year.
Now let me quote Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, his view on this topic. He repeatedly reaffirmed Vietnam's goal to have 2 million enterprises by 2030. So we both agree that this sleeping giant need to wake up because If even a fraction of the country's 5 million household businesses formalize into enterprises, the impact would be enormous.
Yes.
Now, how much time should we give it to kind of wake up?
You're talking at least 5 years for that to happen. It's not going to be an overnight transition as much as they would like it to be an overnight transition. Some of them just can't afford to do that. Like, it's easy to say, oh, we want you to be on this system, but now you have to have learn the system, you have to be educated on the system, you might have to hire outsiders to help you, or family members have to step up, especially the younger family members who have more ability with technology. I think there's going to be a lot of support from banks and accounting firms and others to get these enterprises, because they're beneficiaries of it. You know, the banks will have more assets to loan against. The accounting firms, be it them small accounting firms, bookkeeping services, this is a real boon to all of these services, because these small enterprises are going to need it, but they're also going to be able to educate these enterprises and help them grow their businesses. So I see nothing but it's all positive. But it's painful in the extent that you're learning something new, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that you have to go through the process of learning something,
And change the habits.
it's not going to be easy for that, especially if you think, oh, darn, I have to report all of this. Before I kept all this, the government didn't even know that this business even existed, and that gave me some extra money. But think, these people are spending money back in the economy, so the government has to make it in a way that it doesn't hurt the economy, doesn't set the economy back. I think everybody always underestimates how long anything will take and how much education is involved, but they'll learn and they'll adapt. So I think realistically, it's not going to happen as quick as they hope. But then again, I never thought that they could build a university, the entire structure, in 11 months, right? They built a university essentially overnight. So Vietnam is capable of doing anything when it puts its mind to it.
You know, some foreigners told me that the beauty of the Vietnam's economy lies in its chaotic. And they like to see, let's say, basket ladies selling fruits, you know?
Right.
Or let's say very small street vendors selling food. So if we all try to upgrade them into enterprises, would Vietnam lose this kind of charming, you know, and very unique characteristic of Vietnam?
Look, people pay electric bills, right? They pay their cell phone bill. Almost 80% of Vietnamese have cell phone bills. I don't see it losing its charm. I think the biggest thing is just going to be the educational part of these people that they're seeing being able to actually know how to use this system. And I think it's going to take a while for like when you talk about the basket lady or the fruit people, yeah, you're probably a ways off from getting them to adopt this situation. But they will, because they're used to paying, again, for their mobile phone, for internet access. You know, when 80% of the country has it, and maybe even it's a higher number than that, then they can adapt to this.
Right.
It just won't be overnight.
The basket lady can still sell her things the way she wants, just that now she has invoices.
And I think that's going to be good for them, because when they want to get a loan to expand, or they want to get a loan to buy a condo or whatever that is, this will make it better for them.
So now, in your view, which sectors or business models have the greatest potential for growth in today's household business landscape?
Well, clearly technology does, because it's easily scalable. It can go international. We have 2 students from Vinh University who started a company called MindPal, and it's to use AI to make your business more efficient. They are only 2 years old. They already have 45,000 customers globally. 2 people, 45,000 customers totally. And they're already $1 million business, which is quite sizable here, and that they will eventually add more employees and create more products and services. Vietnam is 4th, I think, in the world in mobile gaming. So that's going to keep increasing here as well. There'll be more AI-grown companies here, because AI has leveled out the playing field, and especially with all the bright students you have in computer science and engineering and in the business sector, that's going to continue to grow.
Now I want you to, maybe if you could send a message to those who are the most vulnerable towards the shift in policy to help the household businesses transform into enterprises.
Yes.
If you can send a message to those who are vulnerable, what would it be?
I would say this. Everything that they're doing for you is going to be painful in the beginning because it's a change. And that there is going to be some kind of investment both in time and some money that you're going to do it. But overall, this is actually going to help you in the long term because you'll be able to attract investment, even if it's not bank capital. Like, let's say that you want to get money from your friends because you have this idea and you want to grow it. Your friends are going to want to see all your receipts as well. They're going to want to see spreadsheets. They're going to want to see bank statements. They're going to want to see everything before they actually make this investment. So this is helping set you up for a more prosperous and successful future.
And do you think all of the changes in the draft law on tax also reflects what the Politburo said? They want to put the private sector as one of the most important elements in pushing growth in Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, you're becoming adults here. When you think about it, kids are used to the parents giving them money, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you guys start paying your own way now. And so I think that the government is saying, we haven't been treating you like fully grown adults where you're paying your fair share or paying something for all the value add that your society is giving you. So we need you to make that contribution, but we're not looking to kill the business that you say to yourself, the contribution's so big, why am I doing this? I might as well just try to get a job with somebody else. So I think that the government has weighed all of that, and that's why this $200 million that they've talked about probably is not going to be put in place. That maybe it'll fall somewhere between 200 million and $1 billion, but definitely closer to the $1 billion than the 200 million, because when they do a spreadsheet and they start saying, okay, here's how much materials cost, fruit, basket, whatever it might be. Here's how many they actually sell. Here is how much their internet costs, all these other expenses. Oh my gosh, they might sell, 10,000 USD in a year, but they're only left with like 500 USD.
Well, once again, thank you, Professor Marc Kramer, for your discussion with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Household businesses have quietly created the uniqueness of the Vietnam's economy for decades, and now we are seeing a big change happening. Household businesses are encouraged to level up and become enterprises. This change is significant and necessary for the long run, as they would help the economy get more transparency. That's the main message of us today. We hope you enjoy our discussion with Professor Marc Kramer. This is Vietnam 360. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.